setting. All right, so welcome to Junior. We actually have a great launch tonight. I'm really super excited. This one is focusing on collegiate cycling, and Ethan Frankel will be our moderator tonight, and he'll introduce our wonderful panel of cyclists that really cover a diverse range in the sport of collegiate cycling, and you'll get to hear about their stories, how they got into the sport, some of the exciting things that they've done since graduating from college, because that's a big part of what they're after. You know, our society at the present time, you know, we're going through a lot of issues, and you know, the Youth Cycling Association was really designed to be a positive light in these kind of times. And I'm just going to read off our mission statement here, which is, you know, the Youth Cycling Association believes that every child matters and deserves the opportunity to succeed and thrive. Through cycling, we are dedicated to addressing the political and sociological barriers that often cause youth to feel less than and can put up with institutional barriers between juniors or any youth and the athletics that they want to pursue. You know, and this is a big problem in our society right now, just not only in sport, but in life. We form partnerships and collaborations within the YCA, such as those with Juniors Matters, to run this program, to coordinate and facilitate quality youth cycling programs and promote equal opportunities regardless of color, age, ethnicity, or disabilities. We strongly support acceptance, youth involvement, acknowledgement, equality, and diversity through our own sport. And I hope that it has a broader meaning for the rest of their lives, which is really what we're about at the YCA. I really want to highlight, you know, our upcoming episodes. So next week, I'm going to give kind of an interlude presentation. It's more of a lecture because I am an academic, talking about the junior to collegiate transition. And I'll be talking about it from the academic position, about how an athlete can position themselves and get ready to go into the college environment, starting from, you know, an early time point while they're still in high school. And then on June 25th, I'm really excited that we're going to be able to bring on professional rider Kate Courtney, who comes from the NICA programs through Devo into professional ranks, and she'll be talking about that story, and we'll be working on a program with that. We're also working on one that's going to be focused on cycling philanthropy, and we'll talk a little bit more of that in the next slide. And we're working with Safe Sport at USA Cycling to discuss some of the things that they're doing, both on the front of drugs in sports and things regarding sporting ethics, so their programs regarding well-being. Because of our position in the sport and because of the tumultuous times that we're in right now, we formed a partnership with the Fast Freddy Foundation. We're actually working on a series that will focus on those inequities in sports that we're all familiar with, both in our individual lives in sport and in life. So I want to highlight, you know, this philanthropic effort that Kate Courtney is doing. Is she's running this fundraiser for United Nations Foundation. It revolves around some of the Everest challenges and things like that. And it's a really positive thing that she's doing. And she's calling it the Climb for COVID Relief. And so right now she has a fundraising arm that's up, and there's the link for it, and we'll post it out through our Facebook and Instagram channels, where you can go and donate, or you can even ride yourself and help them raise money for these relief efforts. And then everything gets posted on Srava, so you can actually see how much people are climbing. My son told me that she's looking at climbing 100,000 feet in the next week. So I think watching her over that time frame will be kind of interesting to see how that goes for her. As Katie said, we do have an internship program that we're trying to get people for. I'm really excited that we've had a couple of interested athletes, and I'm looking forward to working with them in upcoming months to put together programs that not only that we're interested in, but things that interest the athletes themselves. You know, we want them to be interested in the types of things that they do, and we'll support them to highlight things that are of interest to them. So really special thanks to Ethan Frankel, who's our guest moderator tonight, as well as the entire panel for coming on. And Katie Burford from Juniors Matters, who's really a primary driver of this whole thing. And this is the last week we have Angel Martinez, who's been doing our publicity, and his course at Cal State University San Bernardino is ending. And so we'll be looking for a replacement for publicity into the future. Just a couple of housekeeping items. We are working on getting the live streaming up. It's not quite functional yet, but it'll be on our Facebook channel, Youth Cycling Association. We do record this and all of our other sessions, and those are available through our YouTube channel, Junior Cycling Network. I just want to make sure that everybody's aware of the QA box, and put your questions in there, and they'll get pushed over to the panelists. You can identify panelists by name. Otherwise, Ethan will make a decision about who's the appropriate person to answer that. But we are going to be monitoring other chat windows. There is a chat window associated with the program, and so we will monitor that, as well as on Facebook channels and on our YouTube channel. All right, take it away, Ethan.
Sweet, thank you, Sean, and thank you to everyone that's attending this, including our panelists. I know it's a very challenging time that we're living in, and you know, where everyone's doing what they can to enact change in this world. So again, thank you for taking the time, and you know, we hope to the youth that you are positive and that we are positive role models to you. And yeah, just going forward, I think it's a pretty big time in history that we're gonna see. So get ready for the ride and be there at the forefront, and really try to make a difference. So without further ado, I will go on with the introduction. So I'm Ethan. I currently attend UCLA. I'll be graduating next year. I'm from Marin County, California, home to mountain biking, where Kate Courtney lives. See her around on the roads and trails. And I went to Tamalpais High School. I'm currently 21, and I used to ride for Team Swift, which was a junior development program up in Sonoma County, since I was 12 years old, and mainly road cycling / criteriums. That's kind of the fun stuff, and that's what you have in SoCal. So that's what I got going. And a fun fact about myself outside of cycling is that in 7th grade, I was in a short film that won went to 7 or 8 different international film festivals, and I have my own IMDb page. So yeah, I'm pretty popular. No, I'm just kidding. But that's a fun fact about me. Maddy Ward, I think you're next.
First of all, let me say that was such a cool fun fact. I will be looking that up afterwards. Wait, what was it called?
The Swim Trunks is the film.
I see why you didn't give us the title. Hey, my name's Maddy. I went to Poway High School in Poway, California, which is right outside of San Diego. I am 25, and I went to UCLA for biology, and I graduated in 2017. I currently race for the Amy D Foundation. I am their one permanent rider, so I get to race with them all throughout the season. Typically, they're a composite team, so they bring on new riders for each race. I primarily focus on stage racing. I'm a punchy rider. I like putting in attacks, so I think that's what keeps racing fun. And a fun fact, so I originally was like, well, I have a weird fascination with bugs and lizards and insects and stuff, but I just thought of a funny fact. In 2nd grade, I was walking on a wall, and there was a sprinkler head, and it was Easter, and I was wearing a dress, and I was barefoot, and I go to jump off the wall, and my dress catches on the sprinkler head, and I just land flat, my toe bends back, and I break it. And for that reason, the next time I wore a dress, I think, was 8th grade graduation. So I didn't wear a dress for a while. I was pretty scarred. But anyway, yeah, that's me.
Love it. I love it. All right, Dani Morshead is up next.
Hi, everyone. Let me know if I'm still lagging. I can try and switch to my phone, too. I'm not sure if Zoom works very well on my Chromebook. But I'm Dani. I am from the same area as Ethan, Northern Bay Area, Marin County. I grew up doing tons of different sports, ended up landing with rowing, and then rowed for my first year and a half at Brown University before making a switch to cycling, and that was in 2016. Since then, I've graduated in 2018. I graduated with a degree in history, and I currently race for two teams, LA Sweat, crit team, and Team Prattville, which is a grassroots fixed crit and track program. Just kind of, we popped it up with a couple friends and pulled it together and have been going to a bunch of fixed crits ever since. So those are my two teams right now. And my fun fact, before I started cycling and before I did most sports, I unicycled, and I can unicycle and juggle. I'm still learning how to wheelie. Haven't nailed the wheelie down, but I can unicycle better than I can ride a bike. So maybe Chris can teach me a thing or two about wheeling.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect transition to Christopher Blevins, who's known for his wheelies. So Christopher, take it away.
Well, I can't really unicycle. I've hopped on one probably like twice in my life. So Dani, we can trade unicycle tips for wheelie trip tips. I'm Christopher Blevins. I'm from Durango, Colorado, which I'd like to argue with the Marin Mecca, of mountain biking, and say Durango is the Mecca, even though, it started in Marin. I'll give you guys that. I'm 22 years old. I go to Cal Poly in San Luis Obispo. It's my fourth year. I'm studying business and sociology, and I'll be done next winter, hopefully. I've raced a lot of different disciplines in cycling. I grew up racing BMX and raced road with Hoggins Berman Action for a couple of years at a U23. But now I'm focusing just on mountain biking, and I think eventually I'll hop into some other disciplines again. But yeah, and then my fun fact is I am a rapper / poet, kind of. And I'm on Spotify, so you can find me if you search Christopher Blevins.
There we go. All right. I will be doing that after this. Gabrielle, go ahead.
Hi, everybody. I'm Gabrielle. I'm from Eugene, Oregon, and graduated from Sheldon High School. Right now, I'm going to Savannah College of Art and Design, studying fashion design. I race for Lux Cycling as well as SCAD, of course. And my main focus is definitely the road. I started out racing cross when I was like 10, and then moved in to road racing. And my favorite type of road racing is definitely like long, hard stage races. The harder, the better. And fun fact about me is that I make leather like bags and wallets and backpacks and stuff in my spare time.
That is very, very cool. We have a bunch of artists here. That's awesome. All right, Jay is our last panelist.
Hey, everybody. I'm Jay. I'm from Los Angeles, California, and I went to Loyola High School. Go Cubs. I'm 25, so graduated college a few years ago. I went to Stanford University, studied 2013 to 2017, did electrical engineering. So now I'm working at Srava full-time. Still doing a lot on the bike, but the focus is mostly on the software engineering. So my main focus in cycling growing up was BMX tricks. I didn't get much into BMX racing, but did a lot of tricks. And then through college, it became road racing. And now I do mostly criteriums and some of the road races up around NorCal, where I'm based. A fun fact about me is when I'm not cycling or working, I like to play the drums.
Oh, no.
So
Okay, sorry.
I'm thinking I'm gonna need to do like a collab with Christopher, since he's doing the rapping. That could be some fun. I can get myself on Spotify too.
Sweet. All right. Lots of connections going on here. Cool. Well, let's jump right in. Can everyone hear me? I've been freezing. Okay. So Maddy, let's go to you first. Why did you join cycling in college, and what are some of the benefits that you think you got out of it?
Right, so I didn't mention this before. I didn't start cycling until my 4th year at UCLA. My dad has been a recreational cyclist for forever, and so coming from high school, I was always involved with sports, and so I was looking for something to do in college, and I was a runner in high school, and so naturally I thought triathlon. So I got a bike for triathlon. I went on one ride with the team, crushed it, duh, and then did one swim practice, went in way too fast of a lane for my abilities, and that was it. So I never went back. And it wasn't until the following summer, when I was doing a group ride with my dad, that a UCLA alum asked me if I was on the cycling team. And then that fall, I messaged the president of UCLA Cycling and started riding and racing with the team. And it was just a blast. I think that was, although in retrospect, I do wish I had gotten into it as a junior. I think collegiate cycling was an amazing introduction to the sport. It's just so fun. Everyone's so chill. It's a great outlet from school, and the traveling is fun. And following college, I also met a bunch of people. And so when I graduated from college, one of those people asked me if I wanted to go to a camp in the Netherlands. So I spent 3 weeks racing kermesses in the Netherlands, and fell in love with the sport even more. And I got bigger, more racers in these races, because unfortunately some collegiate races are pretty small. And then I started pursuing professional cycling. And I raced about 6 stage races last year, and can't wait to get back out on the road this year. I'm hoping Colorado Classic is still on at the end of August.
Sweet. Best of luck to that, and we're hoping that things are going to normalize at some point. But yeah, kind of to build on that and what you were saying about meeting a ton of friends through cycling in college. Dani, do you want to address the community that you kind of get outside of just the college environment, wherever you kind of go, choose your school?
Yeah, for sure. So in my experience, I went to Brown, which is in a tiny little town, Providence, Rhode Island, on the East Coast. And when I started out at Brown, I was rowing. So I spent all my time with rowers and with students at the school, which was nice, but I felt like I was lacking a bigger sense of community. Like I moved to this strange new town and all I knew were people who were in this tight-knit, tiny little group of people going up and down on one little river together. And I really wanted to expand out from that. So when I started cycling, it just happened naturally. We started doing group rides with people in the community, and the Brown team was really small. I think we only ever had 10 riders max at one time, and then maybe 5 who were actually racing out of those 10. So our small team was constantly training with people from other schools. We had an art school right next door, RISD, so we trained with them. We had another Catholic school down the way that had some riders, so they'd come out too. And we'd all go train with just people who either graduated and stuck around in the town, or just regular old folks who lived in the community who were riders. And it was a really great way to expand your friend group and your network. And I'm still friends with a lot of those people who weren't even students at the school. So that was really neat. It was fun coming back home to my roommates in college who did not know people outside of the school. And I'd be like, oh yeah, I met this like 40-year-old dude. He's going to come over later. And they're like, who? And I'm like, oh, it's cool. He's a bike rider. You'll get along fine. Of course, they're cyclists, so they're all great people. But it was always funny to see their expressions when they're like, who are you hanging out with? Like, everyone, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, being part of that college environment and being at that age where you are really social and outgoing, you get to meet so many new people. That was definitely one of the more valuable things that I've gotten out of it. So going into Christopher, what benefit can you address that you, what benefits have you gotten out of cycling while in college?
Yeah. So I've only done like 2 or 3 collegiate races. My cycling in college is kind of these two different things, and I've tried to connect them. And generally, I think having, two things that kind of balance each other, your classes, your friends that are, in your classes and know nothing about bike racing, and then having a cycling community is really an advantage. And for me, it's really nice to have the daily escape of riding my bike and be able to explore the area you're from. Like simply just going and seeing these little roads or trails and views and houses and, coffee shops, like that's an experience that people who are, maybe on the basketball team don't get. Or, there's so many places I saw in my first freshman quarter that seniors haven't seen. And that's just what the bike can give you. And then the racing side of it, I race, like basically from March until September, like pretty full on, except for this year, obviously. So I take the spring quarter off every year, which has been really nice for me. So being able to kind of schedule my time, and if anybody has questions later about what it's like taking time off school to race, I'm happy to answer that. I've had a really good experience with that. So
yeah, definitely. Thanks for that. No, we'll delve more into that side of your experience. But yeah, going on to Gabrielle, what benefits have you gained from collegiate cycling?
Yeah, I kind of grew up in like the road scene, and have done some professional racing and things like that, where it's like a pretty intense environment, which is something that I like being a part of, and like I choose to do that. But it was kind of a whole new experience for me being a part of collegiate, where it's just a more laid back, relaxed environment. Some people want to take it pretty seriously, and some people are just like having a fun time. And being a part of a group of people that are just there for a good time. And if the lead up to the race, you were like up late studying, or for whatever reason it wasn't like the ideal preparation, it's really like not a big deal. We're all just having a fun time racing bikes, which I think has been a super fun way to experience bike racing.
Yeah, I think you got right to the heart of it. Is like we have such a diverse community of people with different interests and backgrounds, and the one thing that grounds us, that keeps us together, and what we have in common, is that we have a simple joy of freaking riding bikes, and that's exactly what you got at. So Jay, I mean, you came from a background where you weren't really into this road racing scene or mountain biking scene as much. So what did collegiate cycling bring to you?
Yeah, everybody's already said a lot of really good thoughts. So all I'll add, in high school and before, I had an aerobic sports background in swimming. So I've always kind of had this structure that creates, like you have practices, and because you have that practice, you need to make sure you schedule everything around that, get your homework done, get to class, all that. So I had a lot of really good structure leading up through high school. And then in college, I found that I was kind of thrown into this new environment where I didn't have as much handholding or as much structure, and I had to kind of figure a lot of that out for myself. And I really found that cycling kind of gave me that same ability to work everything into a nice organized structure. And I bet this is going to be really true for anybody that is going to go to college maybe next year, if we're still in some strict like stay at home or quarantine, where it might be easy to skip out on lectures or something because they're all virtual, and you might fall into habits of not really getting everything you might want to get out of that college experience. So for me, cycling, it gave me something to structure all of the academics around, just to make sure I was really checking all the boxes of everything I wanted to do.
Awesome. Sorry. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. And I think something that you talked about previously was also that collegiate cycling is it's a kind of a gateway into this difficult to access sport. There's a lot of barriers to entry, like the gear, the equipment, kind of this high pressure environment too sometimes. So collegiate cycling kind of just takes that all away. You don't really need the best gear, the highest quality thing. You're not racing against that super competitive, like Gabrielle was saying, you do have those competitive people where if you are a top junior and you're looking for that, you'll have those people to race against. but you also, it's if you're an entry level rider, there's that access. And I think for everyone that's in attendance, all the juniors out there, you're probably coming from a background where you know how to ride a bike, you know how to race, you've done a few of those. So, and I was in that same position on Team Swift, and then coming into UCLA, it was so cool being able to mentor graduate students, like masters and PhDs. They were like, "Oh, I don't know anything about bikes." Yeah, Maddy Ward. What bike do I get? Where do I go ride? And you have all this knowledge as a junior, and you can actually impart that. And that's something that you don't see in the junior cycling. You always have the coach. There's a hierarchy, and that just completely gets taken down, and you're all peers. So you can be a mentor, they can mentor you in different aspects of life. And it's like this super cool interconnectedness. I don't know, going wah-wah, but yeah, I think that's kind of what we've all discussed so far. Cool. Going on to the next question is something I'm sure that all these juniors are wondering is, how do you, balance the daily academics and the midterms and the finals with the super, an intense course load with a very rigorous and demanding sport, training and traveling and racing. So maybe Dani, why don't you start us off with, who did you find that was able to help you through that process?
Sure. I would say the biggest resource I had that helped me manage that was my coach. So my coach was also a collegiate athlete and totally understood that some days you have midterms and you can't ride your bike for the entire day. So he really helped me learn how to work my bike schedule around my academic schedule, which sometimes it wasn't always fun because I wanted to be riding my bike, but if I had schoolwork, I could really prioritize that. So that was super helpful to have an understanding coach for me.
Great. Yes. Cool. And Maddy, how about you? How did you strike that balance and, realizing what did you need to do, what you need to get done in school, and also with training and racing and traveling?
So I found the biggest thing that helped was open communication with your professors, especially so the first time I really had to worry about missing a final or midterm was nationals, because with the quarter system, I think nationals always fell right around midterm season or something with big exams. And luckily, the majority of my professors were very understanding. They worked with me. I also went to office hours outside of class and made sure to get to know them that way, just so they were more likely to be willing to help me out with rescheduling exams and everything. And I really feel like I could have balanced my academics with my cycling better, but at the same time, I think having cycling in addition to having to do homework and study for exams, it made me refreshed to do that stuff. It kept my mind sharper, I think, just because I could go out and take a break to work out. And I especially liked having interval workouts. I don't know, it was a great way to get my stress out and get mad at my professors or whatever. Like, there's always something. And then I also was able to balance the job as well. However, there was this one time where my friend crashed and I had to call up my boss and say, "Hey, I'm going to be late." And once again, like, people are really understanding in general for the most part. And so communication, I think, is really what helped me balance everything. I wish I had a coach like what Dani had, because that does help a lot. Because since I'm kind of newish to cycling, now that, I guess it's been like 4 years already now, I get stressed out if I miss a workout. And so then I wonder, oh no, is this going to ruin my training? But to have a coach who can make you relax and say, okay, it doesn't matter, you missed this one workout, we can push it, it's okay. And who understands that in college you kind of have to sacrifice sleep at times, then that just helps immensely to give you peace of mind and make you realize that it is possible to balance a heavy course load and still perform well on the bike.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you were saying, going off of that sort of that dialogue that you need to have with coaches and mentors and parents, like communication is where it starts. And I think a lot of people in college, they get to this environment where they're independent and they're like, oh, I don't need to have these conversations anymore. But those are still super crucial. And you got to set your own goal. You set the goals with other people. You don't set them all. Don't put all that pressure on yourself. Okay, so let's see. Gabrielle, we had a question from the audience that was, how do you maintain a healthy diet in the dorms? And could you, that's part of the balance that we're talking about. So
for sure. One really simple trick that I found, because I at the beginning of college found myself going out for a training ride, coming back 15 minutes before class and either just not eating because I was too busy, and then recovering with no food in my system, which doesn't really work, or see something sitting on the counter and be like, yes, I'll eat that, and just go with it. But just taking 5 minutes in the morning and be like, oh gosh, I have a really hard ride today, maybe I'll grab a Cliff Bar or a chocolate milk or just something simple like that to help my recovery when I'm on my way to class. Hopefully I'm not frozen.
Yeah, you're frozen, but your audio's not.
Okay, good. You all froze all of a sudden. But yeah, so things like that. And then I in the dorm buffet thing, there was pizza always, and I'd be going in super hungry, and there's pizza sitting right there looking so good, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't have pizza every day. So eventually I was like, okay, I can have pizza once a week. And so then I'll look at the pizza every day and be like, is today the day for my pizza? And if it looks great, go for it. But just trying to balance, and you don't need to be 100% super strict, I'm only eating salad. But just finding ways to not make yourself miserable with trying to eat well, but still getting in good recovery and healthy food as much as you can.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Jay, actually, let's go back to Dani. Sorry. So we had a question about varsity scholarships versus club sports. And Dani, you had this rowing pressure on you, I guess, from the beginning, and came in, I guess you were recruited. So could you maybe talk about how, what's the dichotomy between the pressures of rowing and versus cycling?
Sure. Yeah, I was recruited. I was not given any scholarships, so leaving the team was not any kind of weird financial mess for me, which was really nice. So it was an easy departure out of rowing and into cycling. I just say the biggest difference going from a varsity sport to a club sport was the amount of freedom you get from being in a club sport. I don't know if it's just because of the nature of rowing, where you all have to be together at the same time every single day, but cycling is so much more on your own time. So, I mean, like I said, our team was small, so we had our group rides with people in the community at set times during the week, but you could really train on your own time, and that was a huge plus for me. So I was spending probably more time at the boathouse rowing than I was in class when I was a rower. And I won't say that I wasn't spending more time in class than I was on the bike, because I was probably spending just the same amount of time, but I was able to schedule it so that I could ride around my classes early in the morning if I needed to, or even late at night after classes, and it really helped my schedule. I think that addresses your question. Is there
that's perfect. I just wanted to understand that transition between going from tell that transition. So, I mean, Gabrielle is also, she's on a scholarship at SCAD. So why don't you maybe explain the process of how that worked for you? Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, for sure. I started, well, I knew that I wanted to race collegiately just to have a scholarship to make college more affordable, which has been really great because SCAD is not a school that I would have been able to go to otherwise, which is another really good thing about collegiate cycling. But yeah, I reached out to multiple programs, and with SCAD, they actually reached out to me, but you can just as effectively start a conversation with a school if you're interested in racing for them or having a scholarship. Reaching out to them works absolutely. And then, yeah, it's just a process of going back and forth with the coach and learning if you think it's a good program for you, if you like the school, of course, and then seeing what kind of funding they have and if they're able to offer you a scholarship. And it's definitely like it goes by school, what's available and how it works. But yeah, the first step is definitely reaching out to a school that you're interested in, and just seeing how that can work.
Sweet. So Christopher, next one's for you. Sort of kind of going off of this, I know you were on the national team as a junior as well, and probably got some offers from cycling specific schools offering scholarships. So why did you go to Cal Poly SLO? And you probably, I mean, you know, versus another varsity program.
Yeah. So I think, I wanted to really make a career in the sport and race professionally. And collegiate, as it's structured now, like gives a great pathway into the sport and can help progress riders. But at the same time, it's not like, basketball. I'll, again, use that example. That's, NCAA sanctioned, and there's a draft out of college sports. So for me, my focus was always on like, where can I be that'll help me best train? How can I, structure my year so that I can race the season okay, maybe take online classes if need be, and have a community to help me, keep motivated. So I never really strongly considered a collegiate, a school with a varsity program on a scholarship. I considered warm weather really as a deciding factor over something like that. So yeah, and Cal Poly does have a pretty big club here. We have like 90 people in the Cal Poly cycling team, but not like even a third of those people race. And it's a great social club and a great group of people to train with at times. But most of my endeavors and certainly all my racing is completely independent of the school, which I think is a unique experience in college. And it is hard sometimes to have those things be so disparate, but yeah.
All right. Awesome. Yeah. I mean, you were telling us about Hawaiian shirt Fridays too. Like we have casual Fridays at UCLA. So yeah, it's a great, social atmosphere. Not really, people don't take everything seriously all the time. So it's definitely different coming from juniors into that transition. So maybe, yeah, if you want to address what is it like navigating the USA Cycling U23 field, especially for athletes who would potentially be interested in that?
Yeah. So it's complex. I think it's really complicated as a junior, and it's probably more complicated as a U23 to how you race in a way that, you're maybe not completely self-funded and paying to travel everywhere. And certainly like the national team and racing internationally is incredibly difficult. And I've seen a lot of my friends and people I grew up racing from 15 to 18 who, for the first couple of years of under 23 had to, pay their way to races and we're trying to get over to Europe, which is, hard for any American cyclist, but certainly more so for someone in college. So it is difficult to kind of race under 23 in USA Cycling or UCI events. I think the simplest advice I could give is really to understand the process. And like, if you want, you can kind of hold two different things. You can like appreciate the bike for what it is and what it gives you in college. And you can also keep your goals for what you want to do potentially as a career in the sport. So understanding that when you come out of the juniors, things get harder racing wise. It's going to be a few years, you know, throughout U23 in the mountain bike field, at least, till you can compete with the pros. But at the same time, don't let that discourage you, and you should still be able to enjoy college and step back from the sport at times to focus on your midterms and other stuff. So hopefully that made some sense.
No, that was a great point. I think you were kind of the epitome of that, where you're able to balance the cycling side and also the college side. I mean, I have another friend, Jason Saltzman, who's racing road in Europe during the spring, and then fall he goes to school as well. So you can make it work, and it's like kind of going back to what Maddy was saying. It's having that dialogue with the administrators, with the deans, whoever. Yeah, cool. Does anyone have anything else to add on the balancing of academics and cycling, training, traveling? If not, I'm going to move on to the next question with Jay. Okay, cool. So Jay, if you're a freshman and you want to try new things, you want to explore, you don't know what college is about, you know, there's so many different clubs and opportunities. So what strategies did you find to continue finding joy in riding, even though there was all these other stimuli from college?
Yeah, it's really important to like really try to find that balance. When you start college, you're thrown into this new environment, and it's a lot of it is an exercise of just finding the communities that really speak to you and you want to be a part of. For you, that might be the collegiate cycling team, but that might be some other hobby or interest that you have. So I definitely say, in some capacity, find out what that collegiate scene looks like, because that might be your community. Doesn't necessarily need to be, but do give yourself that liberty and that agency to try like whatever else you might have as an interest coming into college, or use it as an opportunity to start a new interest, because there's going to be a special interest group for like this, that, and the other in college. There's people doing all kinds of interesting, wild things, and you should understand that that's got to be part of your college experience. It's not only cycling. Otherwise, it might be a question of whether to go the college route at all if you just want to focus on cycling. So give yourself that opportunity to try other things. And also, what I found really helpful was finding ways to bring my identity as a cyclist to other communities or to other places. And that could be maybe a teach-in at your dorm for how to do common like maintenance, like how do you fix a flat tire. At Stanford, most undergrads get around campus on bike. It's a really big campus. And so you have a superpower if you come in knowing how to work a bike. And honestly, you'll find people that don't know how to ride bikes. And it could be a fun, like, you know, friend finding exercise to teach people in your dorm how to ride a bike. So it really is a tool that you can use, not just to win a race, which is important and fun, but also to just build community in and out of cycling.
Awesome. Thank you. And Dani, let's go on to you. And what kind of other social spheres have you brought into your life while also pursuing cycling as, you know, a potential career?
Sorry, can you repeat that one?
Yeah. What other like sports or clubs, activities did you involve yourself in college while you were also cycling?
So when I stopped rowing, I had all this free time, and I was very excited to fill it with what I thought was going to be mostly school. But being the obsessive athlete that I am, I found 3 new sports to compete in. I narrowed that down to 2, one of which was cycling, and I ended up sticking around with club volleyball, which was completely for fun for me. It was a really fun way to just make some friends every other night, just go to the gym and like pass the volleyball around and it was fun. We actually did go to club volleyball nationals. So I went to club nationals for cycling and for volleyball like 2 years in a row, which was totally insane, but was really fun. I mean, it was so much, I mean, it was fun. It was definitely a couple of wild years for me, especially when those races started popping up that were not collegiate races that I had access to. So I was excited to start racing like pro races with teams. And then I'm also trying to juggle a little volleyball team. Obviously my cycling took priority over volleyball. So that was not a huge issue. And the girls on the team totally understood, especially when I came back to them and was like, guys, I can like be a pro cyclist. And they're like, oh, that's actually really cool. We're just playing for fun. So I did that. It was awesome. And there's totally room to explore other things aside from cycling if you make the time for it and if you're able to. I think college is really what you make of it. So definitely depends on what school you're at, what programs you're in. I'm sure there are certain programs that completely you need to dedicate all of your free time to. I was pretty lucky in that I was able to have some time to do some other crazy stuff. So it was fun.
That's great. I think, yeah, at this age and this turning point in your life, it's like, you got to explore. So I 100% respect that and that sort of desire to do so. Gabrielle, why don't you maybe address what the commitment level is like and how can they balance, how can they find joy in riding and training while not restricting your social sphere?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's really, you can take it as seriously as far as time commitment or non-seriously as you want to. Of course, you still have to do some training to be involved at all. But yeah, if you want to be racing outside of just collegiate and doing as much as you can still, like I've been able to maintain a pretty regular training schedule throughout school. But if you want to, be a part of other clubs and do other things, and cycling is just another fun thing for you to do, then it can also be that. It doesn't have to be some consuming all of your time thing, like, oh, I have no time to do anything else fun. If you want to just like train a few hours a week, and collegiate races are generally pretty short, so you don't need like huge endurance miles. But yeah, so you can join other clubs, do other things, or you can focus as much time as you want on the bike. It can go either way, which I think is a really fun part of collegiate. To be involved, you don't have to be like all in. You can just join and have a good time.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think maybe Christopher can address what kind of interests you had and maybe some advice that you can give to people who are going through that transition time in college.
Yeah. So I think, my time was pretty stretched with, it still is, in college with just school and cycling, but it was really important to me to find time for completely different things. So for a while, I really wanted to start like a poetry writing club. Didn't go through, but I was able to meet some cool people and talk to some professors about it. And I've been involved in a couple other clubs, and my music's, really important to me, and a completely separate outlet that is a good release. And sometimes I'll even write lyrics on the bike, on rides. So that's a cool little blend. But I like, even now, like 4 years into my college experience, and on a track to hopefully go to Tokyo next year for the Olympics, I still, when I come back next fall to school, like want to go try a new club and, be in an environment that's entirely different. So I think that's important to realize, that you never are stuck in one thing. You can always pivot or meet new people, try new things. And yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, that's super cool. Like you were saying about pivoting, cyclists are known to be versatile and adaptable, and you're always evaluating different situations. So college is just another bike race, basically. Cool. do you want to maybe at the end of this, Christopher, I'm going to ask you to do like a rap or a poem or whatever you want. So get one ready. Cool. So, and this one's for Christopher and Gabrielle too. If you're a junior cyclist and you want to go pro, does it matter which school you go to? I think you two are very different ends of the spectrum. And can you kind of go to any school and still have a good shot at racing professionally? Who wants to address it first?
I can start. I think you can pretty much go anywhere. Maybe if you're like, I mean, I haven't done it before, so maybe you can, but like in the middle of New York City or something might be pretty hard to train. But SCAD is right in the middle of downtown Atlanta, which is a huge city, and like there's still roads to train on, so you don't need to be like, it's nice to be surrounded by like beautiful rolling quiet roads, but if you, like in my case, I found SCAD and wanted to be at an art school, and that's the only art school that has a cycling team, and so I wanted to like pursue fashion design and race as well as I can. And I think that it is definitely possible to do that. Like if you have a specific school or a specific program that you want to be a part of, and it's maybe not the perfect situation for riding, don't shy away from that school to like be in the ideal place for training. Like having great roads to train on is really nice, but you can make it work without them, especially if there's like a strong specific reason that you want to be at that school or in that place.
Yeah, ride Zwift. I'm just kidding. Don't do that. Cool. Thanks, Gabrielle. Let's see. I mean, I think Christopher's already kind of addressed this, but can you show people the dorm space? We had a question saying, how do you store bikes in the dorm, and how many can you fit or bring? So he's got Christopher.
Yeah. So I was in an apartment freshman year, so I had my own bedroom, which was really nice, like an on-campus apartment, and I had 4 bikes in there. 2 were on one of those feedback sports posts. So it basically I'll get closer. So it goes up, in like spring tensions to the ceiling, and as long as you have a flat ceiling, it works well. So I had one of those, and then I said a lot of people put bikes underneath beds. A lot of the those big twin beds, especially my sister went to Stanford, so your guys' dorm beds are pretty high. So you could probably fit a bike underneath there with the wheels off. You get creative with it. It was kind of fun for me to figure out ways to store my bikes. And then also a lot of schools have bike lockers. Don't leave your nice bikes out, just with a U-lock or even a U-lock or a cable lock, because they will get stolen, or all of the components will get stolen. But those bike lockers are pretty safe from what I understand.
Yeah, those are. I think they're like 10 cents or something for a day or whatever to rent. But yeah, those are options. And then especially in dorms, talking to your roommate and being like, hey, I have a bike here, can we just allocate some of this space to that part? They're pretty accommodating for the most part. And, some of my roommates, we had like our bikes turned vertically and then against the bunk bed. So it's a puzzle, like Christopher was saying, and it's definitely doable. Probably 1 or 2. 2 is definitely the maximum, and it depends on what kind of dorm room you have. Like if you have one with a living room, that's great. That's easy. You can bring as many as you want. You can bring your arsenal. But yeah, it just depends. Danny, were you going to say something?
I have a tip for that. Try to make some friends who are not cyclists and then live with them. And then you're the only one with bikes. So all the wall space, all the extra space you can claim to their dismay. And you can get all the walls dirty and everything. And they'll be really mad at you. But they'll love you anyway.
That's awesome. Okay,
I'll also add, it's relatively cheap to go to Lowe's or Home Depot and grab like a couple hooks and some plywood and make a makeshift bike stand or bike rack for in your dorm. just make sure you check in with housing and that you're free to, stucco it up after you leave that dorm from year to year.
Exactly. Yes. Okay, cool. We had a question from Facebook Live. How do you keep up your motivation? Maybe Maddy, why don't you, we haven't talked to you in a bit. So how did you keep your motivation up throughout collegiate cycling?
So my first year, so 2016 when I started racing, I broke my jaw in 3 places in February, and I was still a B, and I really wanted to go to nationals, and you have to be an A. You have to race 2 races, I think, in the A category in order to go to nationals. So once I was able to get back on the bike, which funny story, so I had my jaw wired shut, but I'm like, oh yeah, I can go on the trainer or the spin bike or whatever, and I didn't think about the fact that I couldn't breathe out of my mouth. Like, this is what I had to do. So I was doing efforts, and I nearly passed out from not being able to really breathe. But anyway, I think it's just really important to set a goal ahead of time and just keep that in mind. Like, I didn't do this myself, but I know people like put sticky notes on their mirror. They write down their goal just so that they can see it every morning. And having your teammates hold you accountable is huge. Like planning to meet up for a group ride in the morning on Saturdays. Like, I know and this was on a Tuesday actually, we have a really early morning group ride. We'd have to leave at like 6 a.m. Tuesday morning in order to get there in time. And just having friends, like, it got to the point where they had to call me in the morning to make sure I was up. Like, really, it's just the network you make in school. I think friends really go a long way to help you stay motivated, to remind you of why you're doing things. And then, of course, you can return the favor and help them out too. Give and take.
Absolutely. I think surrounding yourself with that positive, sort of compassionate system of people is super crucial. And that's what's going to get you through the tough times. Because like right now, no one's getting through any of this alone. So we're all together with somebody else or other people. So having that system behind you and support you and you support them, I think that's a great point. Dani,
I want to know if Maddy ended up going to nationals with a broken jaw.
I did go, but it was North Carolina. Yeah, and I got destroyed because that year it was still varsity and club racing together. So all the varsity people just blew me out of the water. Like the crit, I think like half the field got cut after 20 minutes. And I was in that cut group. It was brutal.
So rough. That's hilarious. I think, that's the varsity people. A lot of them are like Gabrielle, and they're on scholarship and super fast. And you guys get like, there is that opportunity to like train and race a little bit more. And there's a lot of competition with the varsity fields more so than the club fields. But we had a question from a junior, and are there some would you advise, maybe this goes to Dani, staying on your college team or being on the club team or both? What would you recommend for, racing outside of collegiate as well?
You mean
like during the time of
versus the trade team?
Correct. Yeah.
I think I needed that balance. Starting out, I for sure committed everything to collegiate just because I didn't even know what cycling was outside of that world, because that was totally my my initial inception in the sport. But then I started racing those races outside of collegiate, and for me, actually, collegiate was my exposure to the pro cycling world. Like I got exposure because of racing in collegiate. Like I had my results from like championship races and nationals, and I was able to put those on a race resume and apply to pro teams with that, which was really neat to have, because those races they're fun. You go with your friends, and they're way cheaper than flying to like a giant stage race or a giant Twilight crit somewhere. And they look pretty good on a race resume, apparently. So once I started racing with a trade team as well as with my collegiate team, that was a fun balancing act. But it's a different vibe. Like the racing with a pro team is like, I mean, as some other fellow panelists you'll probably all know, is like, it's a job, it's serious. And coming back to collegiate, it makes it fun again. It's fun, it's with your friends, it's pretty casual, low key. So
Absolutely.
Answer your question?
Yes, thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, I personally,
add something
go for it.
to that. It was also helpful as far as balancing collegiate versus open domestic racing, is that oftentimes the race weekends, collegiate race weekends, also have the open races that same day or that weekend. So you can pick and choose weekend to weekend. Like, you don't always have to race collegiate. You could race the open category.
Yeah, or sometimes they're mixed in with the collegiate. Like, I've raced several
Right.
races with like merged with the A's. Like, this is not fair. But yeah, exactly. No, and yeah, so you do like, you know, a 2-hour road race in the morning, and then you go to your 5-hour road race in the afternoon. It's great.
I would also add to that a lot of weekends, it's not possible to go to like a big non-collegiate race every single weekend, but you can target a few like bigger stage races or one days or whatever, but just you can't be doing that like every single weekend. So having collegiate races throughout the season are a really good way to get that race fitness that you need, that you wouldn't really be able to get otherwise, so that you can race well at your bigger target races.
So true. That's a really good point. Yeah. Yeah, and that and group rides. So kind of seeking those out and using the resources and the people that have been established there previously. Those are two excellent places to go get that intense fitness. And you can go do like, you know, 3 hours a week of training, and then all of a sudden you hit the weekends and you can get that focused intensity done, and then go back to studies, and it's like, it works well. Cool. So I think we're kind of wrapping it up. We've gone, it's 6:07 now. I just want to go around and ask everyone, one question is, what advice would you give to your high school senior or freshman self in the past from a couple of years ago, who's about to enter that college environment? So could be related to cycling, could be not. Just what advice would you give to yourself? Maddy.
Don't be afraid to try new things, for sure. I was very hesitant to go out and try to meet people, but you have to remember that as an incoming freshman, everyone's looking to be friends with someone. And the way that you find the people you want to be friends with is to try all these different clubs. So my example, I realized the triathlon team wasn't for me, and so then I went to cycling, and I just vibed with those people so much better. So just know that there are people out there. And if it seems like you aren't really finding your niche, which it took me until I found the cycling team, then don't get discouraged. There are a lot of like activities fairs, so definitely take advantage of activity fairs. You can just walk around, see all the booths and everything. And yeah, just have fun in college. I think I didn't take advantage of all of the fun things there were there. I wasn't adventurous enough, and I definitely regret not being more involved. But cycling helped me out for sure.
Cycling is the highlight of everyone's college experience. Yes.
Of course, yes.
Sean, did you just hopped on? Were you going to say something?
I was going to wait until you're done.
Oh, okay, cool. Well, let's see. Anyone else got advice for your high school senior freshman self who's about to enter? Maybe Jay, you're next on my screen. Why don't you go?
Yeah, always look for opportunities to be a mentor, even when you are coming in as that freshman or the new kid on the block, because chances are you have more experience on the bike in the racing scene than most people joining the collegiate program. And that gives you an awesome opportunity to be somebody that others can learn from and want to act like. It's still true and unfortunate that like our sport is, it follows a very specific demographic, and there's a lot of like maybe unnecessarily normalized behaviors that aren't great. You can help combat that because you're going to have a lot of respect as a great junior cyclist that can really change what that culture looks like at whatever university you're going to.
That was very powerful. Thank you. Dani is next on my screen.
Yeah, funny enough, I feel like Maddy and I had such similar careers in college, and the start of our cycling careers were so similar. I would actually advise my earlier self to be more cautious with trying to take everything on, because I got really excited about doing everything, and I somehow made it work. Sometimes I look back and have no idea how I graduated, but I did it. Go me. But I definitely would tell myself to remember to take time for my own mental health. And I think maybe this is a carryover mentality from rowing, but in rowing, everything's all out all the time. Rest is almost looked down upon. And when I got to cycling, I still had that mentality. So it really carried over into my life too. Like I've definitely in the last year or so realized that rest is extremely important for me. For cycling and for everything else that I do. So I would say to make time for mental health and for rest and recovery, and just remind myself that you don't have to do everything. You can chill out and just have some time for yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah. If you can't make it that one race, you don't need to go. Yeah, precisely. Gabrielle, how about you?
I would say something along kind of similar lines. I was stressed a lot at the beginning about if I had a ton of schoolwork one week and one ride ended up an hour short, or I couldn't go on it at all, or something wasn't going perfectly right in my training because other things going on. And I realized that if that one ride doesn't go right, or even an entire week, there's no need to stress about it in the long run. It doesn't matter at all. And the first season was thinking like, gosh, I think I'm not going to be good this season, like going into the first race, because like I'm on these new roads and I've been so busy with school and my training just hasn't been perfect. And I was so much better than I expected to be. And I was like, how did that happen? And I think I realized from that it's just unnecessary to stress about every little thing. If it doesn't go perfectly, like, don't worry about it.
Awesome. Thank you very much. All right. Lastly, Christopher.
Yeah. So also similar to those past two, I'd say. I think for me, the first couple of years of college, I was thinking, and I was taking, spring quarter off, and I lived in the apartment, so I missed the dorm experience. And often I found myself like thinking about what I was missing out on. And I think if I could give anyone advice, and especially myself as a high school senior, is just to appreciate everything that's in front of you, because there's enough with all your friends you've met, enough with the classes you're taking, and enough, with each bike ride. So really just trusting yourself, being kind to yourself, and just understanding that the rest will take care of itself. So, Ethan, you got to follow up with
absolutely
your advice. I'm asking you.
Oh, my advice. Oh, all right. Thanks, moderator. So my advice to myself would be to reach out to more people who are mentors, be it coaches or parents or family members who have experience in other fields. And like kind of what Jay was saying was like, you can be a mentor going into it. I wish that I had sought out more. So going to office hours for professors and whatnot, I think that's super, super crucial to your own success, and being able to learn from other people, because, we're all here to learn, and that's what college is for. And you can't do it on your own. So I think that's the common theme that's been echoing in my mind this entire chat as well, is just like, you know, have that community behind you, and reach out to your professors and your coaches. And yeah, that's what I'd say to myself. Okay, with that, I'll give it to Sean.
I'll follow up on that. You guys have been a phenomenal panel. I didn't bring it up. I'm actually a faculty at a medical school, and so I see a lot of students like yourselves. And what you've been saying throughout really resonates. And I was a professional cyclist as well, and I pretty much followed the Christopher Blevins route of being only loosely interacting with my collegiate team, UC Davis. And, you know, I'm still engaged with them to a certain extent. My son's actually going to be going here to Davis, and so he'll be another Aggie. So we're kind of proud of that. But, you know, don't view the professors as being scary people. We're there to support you. And so I was one of those students that was very shy and very timid and didn't really go see my professors, even though I was trying to race as a professional cyclist. And that was a big limitation, right? I would have been much further ahead because I would have been able to really interact with them, and they would have helped me better through the process, right? I mean, there was clearly times where I had to miss midterms to go race, or even finals. And, you know, I just very rarely took advantage of those situations to really interact with them and be able to use those moments to help me better through the academic environment. I really want to thank all the panelists for coming on, and as well as all the attendees. Next week, we are going to have, I will be giving a presentation on going to college and getting into college in the college of your choice, and the pathways that you can take to get there. Certainly our athletes tonight have delved into a lot of those experiences and talked about the types of things that you need to be aware of as you make the transition into college, and then as you move out of college and then continue with your racing environments. Each of our athletes tonight have taken different routes in their lives, and I think that's phenomenal. That's part of the beauty of the sport, is that you can do a huge variety of different things. You know, we really didn't get into it tonight with Jay, but, you know, he's kind of gone off into staying engaged with the industry, staying in Srava. And Dani was with Specialized until recently. You know, so I've seen that with a lot of my own friends, how cycling kept them involved and engaged in the industry and in the sport throughout their lives, which is really a cool part of the sport, that you don't always have to be racing to be fully engaged with the sport. You can be doing a lot of other things that are fun and interesting to you. So thank you for joining, and thank you again to our presenters. Good night.
Thanks so much. All right. Take care, everybody.
Thank you, guys. Yeah.
Thank you.